again, everybody. This is Amorgin, and you're very welcome back to a very special edition of Star Trek Fleet Command Gate, where we've finally got an official video done by Panic. He's got the equipment out, fair play to him there. He's bit the bullet and he's got down and dirty with the content creators here and given it a lash himself, so fair play to him for that. We'll do a wee bit of a thoughts on that at the end, maybe on how we think that Panic performed. But he's gotten games designer Keenser out and done this bit of an interview, guys. Keenser's well enough known to you guys on the different forums and on Discord. He's done Q&A with us before and stuff, so he's been down and dirty with the community as well. He's no stranger to us, so very interesting to see this happening. Very interesting to see what the guys are going to say here. I'm looking very much forward to it, and I'll throw out my thoughts on what the two lads have to say to each other as and when the questions arise.
Hey guys, this is Panic, and today we're joining with Keenser, with designer Keenser, and we're going to be talking about the new Galaxy tree that hit on Tuesday, 20th of August.
Sorry, I just have to jump in here, guys, and say what an attractive man that Panic is. I've said it before. That perfectly sculpted Greek head. I like the t-shirt as well. Keenser's looking a bit mean there at the moment, but I'm sure he's a nice guy, so we're going to crack on with this.
I know everyone's super excited with the new tree and everything that has to do with it, so designer Keenser was one of the major drivers of the tree and of designing it, so he's here to kind of answer your questions, talk about the tree and the logic behind what was done. So thanks for joining us, Keenser. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. I'm dialing in this morning from Brazil, where I'm meeting with a number of developers that we're doing different games with here at Scopely. And this morning I'm talking to you about the Galaxy.
Sorry, I have to weigh in here and just say, dialing in? You're not on dial-up, Keenser, are you? Like, you're showing your age now, man.
The research tree, the latest addition to the Star Trek Fleet Command, and it's been the thing that I've been enjoying playing personally and been looking forward to getting into all of your hands over the last weeks, months, really. An effort like this, a big feature that came out now has been something that it's been in development for us for quite some time, right? We started conceiving early this particular feature, months ago we started working on it. But if you want to go back for the Galaxy research tree, its origins lie all the way back to release. I don't know how much all of you are interested in game development, but the fact is that whenever you're making a game and getting it ready for release, there are features that you try to incorporate right into the game at launch, and other ones that you go, okay, we'll have to save this one for later. The game's getting ready to launch, and we don't have time to make this tree or this ship or this thing we're building as awesome as it needs to be for it to be player ready. The Galaxy Research Tree really was one of those. We originally conceived of it being in the game and release back in November or December of 2018. And it just wasn't working the way we wanted to. We needed some more tech. We needed some more time from the game design team to make it the awesome thing we thought it could be. And that meant that we deferred it into release, and then we got focused on other things for a little while. We got focused on lots of different elements of the game, all the things that you guys have been enjoying for the last 6 months and a bit longer. Everything from Khan and the Swarm and, the different ship progressions that you've been working your way through as you play.
I have to say at this point, I do like the Swarm. Now, maybe it's only on my progression curve at 29 that it's beneficial to me. I know there are others out there complaining about it, but I do like the Swarm, so fair play to the guys for that one.
Play the game. So it wasn't until, obviously, August that the Galaxy Research Tree was released to players. We've been really focused on it internally in game design for the last 2 or 3 months prior to it shipping. And then, of course, doing about a month of testing and work and development as it went through QA and all of our release processes that bring it out to live and all of you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So
a couple of things there. Mention a month's testing or so there, Keenser. I'm curious to know who was doing the testing. I've had them questions sent to us. Now, I've done a wee bit of the testing of this game way back in beta 2 years plus ago. I don't know if you were involved at that time, man, but it's a long time ago now, and we wonder who's doing the testing now. I've had a lot of queries about that. How many people are testing the product, that kind of stuff. And you mentioned about how how the idea was originally conceived at launch and deferred because you was focused on other things. You mentioned the swarm, fair play. But once this idea is conceived, surely it wouldn't be a bad idea to use your ready-made focus groups out there in the community. Say you have this idea, you're going to be working on it, and then consult with us and take our feedback and put groups of players together who can go and test this. Put groups of players together who can go and give feedback on this. Now, I know you're always lurking in the background there anyway, and you're taking on board a lot of what the community are saying, but if you're conceiving of an idea, rather than having it all hush-hush, engage the community and get their thoughts on it. Just a wee bit of an idea, I'll put it out there.
So we kind of went over like what was the purpose of the tree and like when and how did it come to fruition right now. So kind of a more of a fun question. So what is your favorite part of the tree and why? Because there's a lot of diversity within it, and curious to see what was your main driver with it.
Yeah, we wanted the tree to appeal to everyone. You know, when we were designing the tree, you know, from its early days until then, you know, literally a giant whiteboard. This is how things are developed, and there's Post-it notes, and you're literally moving the tree around and writing on Post-it notes what you want the tree to have. Right, that's you know, way back when. There's a whiteboard, and there's probably pictures of it somewhere. I'll see if we can find it for you, Philip. And it's literally just a wall of all these nodes that you want to do. And when we were conceiving of it, the most important thing for us is we wanted this tree to be for everyone, right? And that meant we were designing it with different elements for all kinds of different players. So we have players that are, you know, just reaching level 20 and exposed now to this new research tree. We have players that are all the way at the end of the spectrum in the high 30s, and they have different wants and needs. And also just how they play the game is different. For some game players, they want more economic resources. They want to be able to improve their mining and refining. The players are really looking into the officer gameplay. So that's another corner of the tree to make the officers stronger and better as more powerful and higher level officers are being unlocked. For me, it really was the start of the node. You know, I mean, the very first node that we put on the far left end of the tree that you first unlock is warp speed. And
I just have to come in here, lads, because I'll not get started on the warp speed thing. We'll go on and see what Keenser has to say here, but just in terms of you have players at all of these different level ranges and what their needs are. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe things are that hush-hush that I don't know that there's a group of testers out there in the community. But the real burning question is, where are you getting the information as to what's relevant to a player at level 15 or a player at level 25? Are you just looking at numbers and stats, or are you actually talking to the community? I know you're listening to all of the feedback on Discord and different places, but have you got players in that are actually giving you proper feedback, more than just a handful of people in a room? There's hundreds of people out there willing to do this and give that feedback in a live environment if you want to use the community for that. Is that being done? I don't know, but it's certainly something that people have been asking me to push with Panic and others. So again, something to take on board. Maybe I'm missing something, and if so, I stand corrected, but I haven't heard of any number of players that have been testing this product so far.
I think like a lot of players, you know, I enjoy playing Star Trek a good deal. I like talking to my friends. I am happy that my ships are now moving a bit faster now throughout the galaxy. I send them from, you know, one corner of mining node way over here to over there to get some G3 resources, or to, you know, explore the galaxy in different ways and do missions that I'm still working on. All those benefited most my personal fun gameplay by making my ships a bit faster and doing that research as soon as I could.
So, or what we really talking about here, Keenser, is that you're sitting playing this game and it's your own personal enjoyment. I'm not sure, guys. You leave your comments below as to what you think. Warp speed, it's all well and good, it's nice, but what I'm hearing from people there is warp range would have been better. Certainly I would have preferred to see a little bit of warp range. I was excited with the Galaxy Tree coming out. The first node that I met, you talk about that moment, that first node, it was disappointing when I seen there wasn't warp range there. There's a number of people that agree.
Oh, yeah, the first node for me as well was a very big surprise in all the players. It was an interesting one, and thanks for that. So now these are kind of questions I had for you, and now we're going to go more to a lot of the questions players had that have been going on through Discord. So yeah, actually on the first point, Why isn't there a warp range research within the tree itself?
Yeah, I mean, we thought about it certainly. It would have had to have been very, very small. We use warp range, not always perfectly, but as best we can to try to balance the content that the player should have available to them. That's why it's generally on ships. Which means it ties back to kind of the power level of the player, the strength of the player, even the station of the player. All that gets kind of mixed into that equation. And we could have done something really small, kind of like Scotty, where have one or two warp range. But players are already able to go a little bit further than some of their content would allow them to complete. So you can pick up missions on planets before you're really able to complete them, and
That's not exactly our players' problem. That's a design problem.
a little bit okay. It's okay to have goals, and okay, I want to be able to get my ship a bit more powerful so I can take on that NPC, take on that marauder group that it wants me to take on. But I thought, really that if we'd done that when we talked about it, the designers, it would have stretched that even worse, and you would have been collecting even more missions that you don't have the capability of fulfilling. So it wasn't really about that we were unwilling to give more warp range, but we wanted a great experience for the players. And I think collecting a bunch of missions that you can't complete is not really rewarding for the player. Is not a great moment for the player to have to.
I agree completely. I have loads of missions from before the warp ranges were nerfed that I can't complete. There's been some positive changes with this. Like I've been able to develop quite fast with recent events and all of that. I'm quite happy with a lot of it. It's allowed me to strengthen up a couple of ships. Maybe now I'll be able to complete some of them. But I agree completely. Very annoying there to have missions that are just way, way, way out of reach.
Endure. And we were considering that, not just for the players that are again in the high 30s today or something like that. We were considering that for the guy who's just reaching the 20, 22, 23, 24, if we put a bunch of warp range nodes, that makes his experience of going through those levels and through the galaxy tree a worse one.
I wouldn't necessarily say that the experience of being able to explore the galaxy further is a worse experience. Absolutely not. When I was able to explore a huge chunk of the galaxy, more than there is there available now, at lower levels, it was no problem. I enjoyed it well enough. There was no content in them high systems, obviously, but it was nice to be able to go up to them systems. I would say as well, when you're thinking about the lower level players, you're talking about the lower level players there and thinking from the different guys' perspectives. Again, are the players at that level and who've been through those levels, are you consulting with them? We are stakeholders as well, whether we're paying customers or not. We're all stakeholders in the product. So where's the consultation? That's an important one there when you're considering these things, because most people I know, they would be quite happy to be able to explore larger chunks of the galaxy, even though there's nothing in it for them to do.
Yeah, and I think we were talking about it together before. It's like each player kind of has their own goals and their own ways that they want to play the game. So kind of bouncing off that. So like, what was the outcomes for players what were you trying to achieve for players when creating the tree?
Yeah, I mean, we really just looked at, we have many different designers on the game design team, and they all have different interests, and we all try to represent the interests of different players. We play the game ourselves, we listen to Discord, we're mostly lurking, but we are always listening to the kinds of things that players want to be able to do. And so responding directly to player feedback, even if it's not in a Discord chat room, it's things that we're absorbing into our brains and thought process about how do we make the game better and trying to answer a player concern. So one player concern was that, my officers just don't feel as powerful relative to other things in the game. And, I put this great officer on, I want it to feel like a bigger difference in combat, or, I want to expand the space of what it means to have an epic officer and how valuable that is to my ships. So that's part of it, like we do in the game. And of course, just like warp speed, players complain and they're always going to want to go faster. But we thought that as time went on, you've explored the galaxy, you're moving back and forth, you've accepted how big the galaxy can be, and we continue to add more stuff to the galaxy. Warp speed was a natural thing to add in and let players move around and interact with each other faster over time. Similarly, that kind of economic benefits as players level up and, they're moving through that, mining and refining gameplay. Over time, we want players to progress faster, right? So handing those economic benefits out to players to be able to earn and achieve and make their minds go faster means that more players can get those resources available to them over time.
Okay, I have to jump in here about the refining and the resources and all of that. It's one of the most common complaints that I get. Very simple thing. You have a live server here with the founder server that's offering a lot more refining options than what most other servers have. Why not just bring all of the servers into line with the founder server? By no means we are overpowered when it comes to the amount of G3 that we're able to refine. Now that we're moving into the era of G4 as well, that should certainly be looked at. Not this old begrudgery Scrooge kind of stuff where you take it away from the founder server, or keep us separate from the wider player base by letting us have it and not letting others have it. Bring everybody in the line. We've been playing with it for the last 6 months, a year almost, whatever length of time that's there. Surely you have the data on it now that you can bring everybody else in the line and finally put to bed this idea of G3 refining. You say you want people to be able to progress faster. This would be one way that people would be able to have half a hope at progressing a little bit faster.
Yeah, and bouncing off that, we also just released new daily goals, which are much easier to achieve. Plus, they have way more resources that you can gain from that. So it's kind of bouncing off to what you were saying. So yeah, that's really good to hear.
I have to say as well, Panic's dead right there. The daily goals are working. I done a bit of a critique of it. It remained to be seen what way that is. I was unable to achieve the tokens, the loyalty tokens and all of that. Now I've been able to unlock my first 30-day loyalty chest because I saved up them tokens by doing my dailies every day. It's still, the rewards in it are still stingy enough in my opinion, but it's achievable now.
The economic side of the game is always in motion, right? That,
Yeah.
we retuned the refinery, we added more benefits and goals to daily goal system, adding the loyalty chest for people who are really, good and strong about doing their daily goals every day. All of that's important to us, that we continue to make the game more rewarding to our players with better events and more rewarding events. And the same thing's true in every element of the game. We want the players to have a better time and a more rewarding time as time goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to give credit where it's due here to you, Keenser. Panic is distracting me with his boyish good looks there, so I'm trying to focus on what you're saying. But credit where it's due. You're listening to the community when it comes to certain things, particularly in relation to the daily goals. They've improved, like I said. So yeah, fair play to you for that one.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I want to go back a bit to the actual tree itself and the narrative of the tree. So why did you essentially create a new tree rather than just not expand the previous ones?
Sure. I mean, part of that just is how the research trees are built in a strategy game. For one, we've been kind of teasing the galaxy tree forever. That tab has been down there since release, so saying, look at me, I'm going to be here someday. And the other, but obviously unusable. The other trees are also very kind of progression based, right? They have a little bit of holes in them, so to speak, in a few places where if we wanted to add one individual research node here and there, I suppose we could have, but they're very much anchored in the current progression system. So if we wanted to add a bunch of nodes at level 20 or 24, it's not really easy to do that, how they would fit in. We either have to stretch them, and that probably be bad, or reformatting what players already have and are used to, and they'd have all these holes in the middle of it. I don't know what else it would be. Either we'd have that, or we'd have to stick something on the far right of the combat tree or the station tree to let players get more content out of it. It just seemed much more natural to us that, just like the other research trees, it was going to have a progression loop attached to it. So minimum R&D level, A, B, C, as the research node went on, or as the tree went on rather. And that meant that it should be its own tree with its own dependencies, its own level requirements, and its own benefits.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I have to say here, lads, that that was a real designer's question. That was a really heavy on the design. Not many people are actually interested in that, I wouldn't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not the most exciting information you could be delivering to the community. It's real designers. It makes me wonder, does Keenser write these questions for Panic? I would say though that you're talking about all this stuff, Keenser. You sit with the post-its, you do the brainstorming and all of that kind of stuff. I'm going to link this video. I'm going to tag you in it so that you can watch it at your leisure. But when you're doing the brainstorming and when you're doing all the post-its and all of that kind of stuff, what I would suggest to you is, rather than a couple of months later when the content is out, coming and talking about your thoughts on it and your passion for it and your excitement for it, because I can see the designer in you coming out and your passion for it. So rather than 3 months later, 4 months, 5 months later from when you have done that brainstorming session, as soon as that's over, and while the passion is hot in you with the ideas, come to the community then. Do a video like this with Panic then, before the content is even released, before it's even started to be worked on. Come to us then once you have the bones of the idea. Release that to the community via a video like this with Panic or some other way, and then let the community come back with you, bombard you with all of their thoughts and their ideas, and then you've got loads of input, ready-made focus groups all over the place on every server coming to you, and surely you can disseminate that information then and go, right, well, this is what the community are actually really asking for, and then that will enable you to deliver upon community-led improvements to the game.
And there's a lot of work in adding to the previous expansions of the trees, that a lot of things have been moved around, and yeah, it's understandable. So, I just out of curiosity now, how long was the actual Galaxy tree been in development? You said initially it has started from the beginning of time, but essentially when did it actually start being made?
Yeah, so I mean, every few months, the leadership group behind the Star Trek team, that the people behind the game, sit down and plan out the next 3 months. So I guess you'd say it was back what month that was. God, it was a long time ago. Game development, right? It's all a blur eventually. All the late nights making it happen makes me not remember its exact date. I think it was in May that we sat down, specifically to think about the next 3 months after June, and we began to plan that. We call it a creative summit, where all the kind of leadership of the product side and the different teams all sit down and we think what will make the game best over the next 3 or 6 months. And that's just a kind of conventional software planning kind of moment. Where you get out the whiteboard and the Post-its and you're moving different features and plans and content around about when you could release things. And it went through a lot of iterations, but the game design team was the real leadership in that moment, where we said, hey, we think the best thing to do here would be to finally release that Galaxy research tree that will make our players' lives better with warp speed and give them a new axis of kind of progression for players who are looking for that and different things for them to do. And then it really started developing pretty soon after that, right? So all the different designers that are working on the combat and the economy of the game all started sitting down and making the research tree. And that's a lot of meetings, both virtual and physical. The Scopely team is based in lots of different places, including Dublin and Los Angeles and Barcelona, and all of those kind of people had to meet digitally and virtually, and then some in person, as we really solidified what that was going to be. And then if you know anything about kind of system design in games, then we spent a lot of time in Excel and modeling what the game was going to have and the different benefits it was going to have, the return on investment, how long we think it would take for players to progress through the tree. And that was a lot of about 2.5 months of solid work to get for the people that were really in charge of it to bring that from beginning, middle, and review and make it happen, right? And get it into the game, get it tested. Find a few bugs that some things weren't working originally, and getting some help with engineers and artists to make the tree pretty and beautiful together. And then again, finally, when it was all tested and ready to go, turning it on in a test environment, and then finally, just this week, making it available to.
You mentioned there again a test environment. I'd love to know, I think the community would love to know what the test environment is, how many people are involved in it, how long does it go on for. Mentioned something there about the ideas for this going back whatever length of time to design this and that. Ideas could have been circulated to the community back then to get us excited and whet our appetites. We would be more forgiven as a community if you were sharing this stuff, not all cloak and dagger, sharing this stuff, like I said before, in advance, letting the community weigh in on it, and then seeing the product grow. And then we'll be there with you when it's achieved. We'll be a lot more forgiving if deadlines are missed and stuff like that. without all of this the secrecy. A bit of transparency and engagement there, and it goes an awful long way to shut up all the whingers and the whining. You'll never shut them all up, but you'll shut a few of them up.
Everyone in the world.
Yeah, it's an interesting sneak peek of how the minds of the developers in this company work. And as everyone knows, like a lot of the tech companies as well, like there's a lot of cross-country and time zone interaction. So it's an interesting way of managing that. Cool, thanks. So kind of going back to one of the really cool features that was introduced.
Just have to make a wee comment on Panic's amazing editing there. Fair play.
In July, the USS Franklin and the Swarm, and we've seen that this tree really encompasses this feature. So one of the questions the players were asking were, why were the Swarm not treated like the faction portion of the trees?
That's interesting. I mean, some of it is really silly reasons, and some of it isn't, right? So, when we build the faction sections of the tree, they're literally, the research tree is 3 nodes wide, right, or tall, or however you want to look at it, and it is very simple to say Klingon, Romulan, Federation. And to have them kind of band next to each other. That's how we did it for combat and station. It's how we've done it again for Galaxy. Someday, we could change the shape of the research tree to have them be kind of 4 nodes wide if we wanted to add an interesting different faction ability or something like that. Who knows? I haven't thought about that clearly. But the Swarm are sort of a faction from Star Trek Beyond, and sort of not. They're also kind of just like a rebel organization, in a way like Khan, but different, right? And we didn't want to create that all at the end of the tree for only the end game section or notions that, similar to how the other research trees are built. We wanted the Swarm to be a little bit earlier, and we didn't want to interrupt the tree to have kind of, a Swarm band in the middle without progression, arrows going in and out of it. We also want the Swarm, taking a step back and thinking about the Swarm's purpose, right? The Swarm come into the game, and we wanted some exciting, different gameplay. We wanted to release this cool new ship that's relating to the film and how, sabotage, whether you're playing the music in the back of your mind right now, like I am or not, was this notion of, how to take on the Swarm required a specific new tech, and it required a specific new vessel to really lean into that kind of Kirk moment and rock and roll. But at the same time, from a gameplay point of view, we were trying to distribute a new and better way for the player to acquire power steel and titanium and dilithium, right, through the daily goals that are accomplished with the Swarm. And then, like everything else in the game, we want the progression system to be unlocking the ability to do that better and to do it, to fight tougher Swarm and to get, make their lives easier. And
just a wee comment on that before we do a final comment on the Swarm bit. A lot of people would have said that there was a lot of content thrown at us all on top of each other. Would have been much better drawn out over a longer period of time. I know you got deadlines to meet, and I know there's a calendar, but it caused a lot of consternation out there within the community. So not so much thrown at us at once in future, please, if you can do that.
To grow the Franklin ship stronger, and that's why that progression system falls into the Galaxy, right? That the Galaxy was trying to be, in its original concept, everything that's out there, right? And that means, mining and warp ranges and, the Swarm. And, that's the core of what we were trying to conceive with the tree. In addition to meeting all those different other player desires out there about, wanting their ships to be more powerful generally, or wanting to be able to be more powerful in anything they do in the game, whether that's PvE kind of experience or PvP experience. But all that, the Swarm was pretty central to what we wanted to accomplish with the Galaxy Research Tree. Which made it, kind of timed with its release and all.
Again, there's Panic's amazing editing kicking in, but we comment on that wee piece there, that segment around the Swarm. Like I say, where my progression curve is, it's working for me. I'm enjoying it. I know there are people at level 30 and 31 who are shocked at the hike in demands and hitting the level 32 Swarms and the need to be able to upgrade the Franklin, and how if they're not spending money, that's not going to happen in a hurry, and that the item demodulators needed to upgrade the Franklin are so hard to come by, and all of that kind of stuff. So there's still criticisms there, although it's working for me, and I'm enjoying the Swarm, certainly. Something about the way Keenser's there with his glasses there, just made me think of the Daniel Jackson fella from Stargate. He's got that thing going on. We can see the passion coming out there for the design elements again. But once again, sharing that passion beforehand, Keenser, wouldn't be a bad idea. Letting us share in that passion maybe, and then direct the creative juices a little bit further once things have been more or less decided upon.
Now I want to piggyback a bit on the actual tree and the narrative of the tree. So we all know, like, the station unlocks part of the station, right? The galaxy will unlock parts of the galaxy, or will it unlock parts of the galaxy? Because a lot of it is more kind of defining the power of the player, rather than unlocking other parts. Like, for example, you have unlocking ships in the other trees. Will the galaxy tree be unlocking anything in this case?
I mean, not in space exactly, right? So the purpose of the galaxy tree isn't to make new star systems appear, right, that you couldn't access before. It'll make it easier to get there. It'll make you more powerful to fight the things you'll encounter in the future. And of course, we will be adding more star systems, more missions as time goes on, right? The galaxy tree was going to make your life easier and, you know, make you better, but it's not a direct key and lock system, right? We do that occasionally with, you know, like the station tree says, you can have this new building in your station that you couldn't have before. Or it is true that the combat tree says, hey, you have this ship that you didn't used to have before. The galaxy research tree isn't about hard unlocks like that, where get this node or you can't do this. It's more about kind of a quality of life and making the player's experience better through all the way, you know, from the first days of getting it until the end of 30 and 39 and beyond.
Yeah. No, that it fits the narrative as well. Yeah, it was a question by a player, and it makes sense why they would ask it. But yeah.
So nothing much to say on that. Agree completely with Keenser there about the quality of life adjustments. I can see the quality of life adjustments as how they're intended. It's something I've been calling for a long time. So nothing much to say on that. Like, some of these questions are not the burning issues that the community want to hear, but I suppose Panic had to start off this with something very easy to go going on Keenser there. If it were me, I think I'd be a little bit tougher. But then again, you know, you probably don't want to be putting these guys on the spot. Nothing really else to say there, except it's very hard to focus on Keenser sometimes because Panic is such a sexy man. But we'll move on from that one.
I'm gonna wrap it up with this question. So thanks for that, Keenser. I just have one more last question. Just want to wrap it up. It's more of a generic question for all the trees themselves. So generally, the game over the past few months has been getting a kind of an overhaul in its graphics. Are the trees going to have one as well? Is it going to be in the future?
Don't know. You know, we listen to different player appeals about that kind of thing. The research tree is fundamentally, kind of UI heavy, you know, more than a kind of like fighting in space, and the new menus of different things have gotten an overhaul. Like the faction, you know, kind of UI is much better than it used to be, and future enhancements like that. I can't tell you all those details yet, but we definitely have some things in the work. Research trees isn't what I'm focusing on internally right now. You know, it could be in the future as we look to do more with research next time. It may be something that we look at. But I'd be curious to hear everyone's reactions to where they think the UI of the game and the kind of experience of using the game's interface can be best improved or in most need of improvement. Those are questions we're always asking ourselves, and we have opinions. So let Philip know, is research something you'd want to focus on in the future? Or is there something else in the core kind of group of using the game's UI systems that you think help more? I'm curious to know the result.
Awesome. So yeah, thank you so much for being with us today, Keenser, and giving us such an interesting insight within the tree itself. So guys, thanks for tuning in today. I hope you answered some of your questions and some of your reactions. Again, as we all know, like, we're on Discord, we're on Reddit. Like, please come ask your questions, and we'll try as much as we can to answer them. So thanks a lot.
Bye.
Okay, guys, fair enough. Fair play to the lads for doing this. It's an easy one for them at the start. Nothing wild or exciting in it, but a great step forward there to see Panic getting out the equipment and doing this kind of thing. A face like that needs to be on the internet. Couple of points. Like, I loved seeing Keenser there being interested and saying, tell us what you want. I love to see that. And I believe he's genuine. I believe that's legit, right? But of course, this man could be bombarded with a load of information, and it could be information overload for him and the team. So we need to do this in more digestible chunks. So I could sit here easily for the next hour, listen off all of the stuff that people are telling me, and spam Keenser with tags and messages saying, listen to my video, watch this here and all. But I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to illustrate this, going to illustrate a couple of ideas just at the end of this video. Hopefully Keenser will watch this. And I'll put out an offer to Keenser. We can sit, and instead of me sitting doing a video for an hour, man, I'm quite happy to do a direct call with you or any of that kind of stuff, and we can get the creative juices flowing, and I can tell you what the community's saying to me, what my ideas and experiences are over the last couple of years, playing other games as well, and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm at your disposal. I'm quite happy to do that at any point. Rather than doing it in a video necessarily. When it comes to the graphics and the overhaul that Panic mentioned, the user interface stuff, a couple of things. I want to give a wee shout out to Anisius again. I've had good conversations with the likes of Anisius on this, where she'd raised some issues around the alliance function, how that's displayed, how we use the alliance function within the game. Simple things like being able to mail all of your alliance at one time. Very, very sensible option. It's in other games. Why is it not in Star Trek Fleet Command? And alliance chat improvements in general. Instead of a lot of our gameplay being on Discord, we live on Discord more than we live in the game sometimes. Some people have gone as far as to have WhatsApp groups where they're putting themselves at risk, sharing each other's private information, and then they're complaining about being doxxed and all this kind of stuff. There's a duty of care there with any company there that has customers and stakeholders, like I say, who are engaging with their product, but because of the inability of that product to meet the demands of the community goes elsewhere, uses third-party tools to chat to each other, third-party programs like Discord or whatever, and then people put their security at risk, and it's all based around this game. So you may or may not agree that there's a duty of care there, but I believe that there is, because these people would not be interacting if it were not for this game. These channels that are created are directly related to Star Trek Fleet Command. So it makes sense in terms of a duty of care to have improved chat functions within the Alliance, so that people don't have to go outside of the game to communicate more efficiently. This is a big thing for some people. Alliance leaderboards, guys, the stats that we all have on our own account, being able to go into your alliance and see who the best PvPers are, who the best PvEers are, who are the best miners and things, just within your alliance. The ability to be able to see who was last online, how active your alliance members are, all of that kind of stuff would be amazing quality of life improvements for running events. And if Armadas are going to go the way that I think that they're going to go, as a conversation I'd be quite happy to have with you, Keenser, as well as that, and the potential appearance of the Borg and things like that. Quite happy to have some conversations with you about that and what the community are saying and what would get people excited. So there's some thoughts, guys. Overall, I think Panic gave Keenser a bit of an easy time, but then I guess the two guys are employed by Scopely, so it's that's to be expected. I hope nobody took any insult out of this. None is intended. It's really just my thoughts on what is a very interesting turn up for the books to see a video like this pop up, and hopefully there'll be more in the future. So until the next time, guys, and until I'm back in game giving you some more footage and content from in Star Trek Fleet Command, look after yourselves and look after each other. And a shout out to Keenser and Panic for giving me this great opportunity to be able to do this. And I'll catch all of you guys again very, very shortly. Cheers.